Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, and I got a review for you. From Image Comics, we're going to be talking about Gospel, issue number 4, written art, illustrated letters by Will Morris, and then the cover is done by Ver. Um, Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe on this guy's channel. It's all free, doesn't cost you anything. The only thing it will cost you is somebody's going to be able to see what you type in, but hey, that's what we're here for, the interaction. You know, it's going to be another comic book person that sees what you type in. It's all about the love of art and stories on this guy's channel, I'll tell you that. Alright, so in a nutshell, basically we are following Matilda Ramstein. Du hast! No, sorry, that's a 90s joke. A bad 90s joke. Alright, so Matilda Ramstein and her friend Pitt. Pitt's featured here. And they're basically on this journey to collect this magic hammer that's going to smite the devil. Yes, Satan himself. There is kind of like this like motif where it's being told in the future that does not come up in this issue, so I'm not really going to bring it up, but there is like a double, you know, story part to this, but basically it's about Matilda and Pitt. Pitt is basically like her scribe or bard. He's following along. He's supposed to be like you know, kind of like reporting for the church. You know, he's supposed to be documenting and reporting for the church as he's traveling with Matilda. Matilda is also kind of like getting him to like spread the word of her great deeds, kind of thing. The last issue we were at, like this, you know, an assassin had tried to take out Matilda, and during this whole scuffle and stuff, some things happened. Matilda, you know, should have, you know, helped Pitt out, her best friend, and instead she kind of did the adventuring thing. During the bar thing, you know, Pitt had this moment where he could have told glorious stories of Matilda and Pitt's journeys, and he did not, so it kind of made you know, Matilda upset. So going into this story, they were kind of both a little upset. So with all that being said, here we go. So it catches up that night after that bar scene. Matilda is taking a nap, and we see that, you know, Pitt is reading a book, and it happens to be the Bible. Now, I didn't mention this, but this does play a major key in the story, but this is right around the time when the Latin Bible was being translated out, and they were bringing in the King James English version. So in this book, it's kind of seen as like a heretic thing to read the English version, and that's what our boy Pitt here is reading. He's reading the old Bible in English, you know, is what it says on the book. But you know, Matilda actually seeing this, she sees this as a sin, you know, as a like mark against God. She gets upset and, you know, tries to explain why it's a bad thing. Pitt has the opposite, you know, thinking on it. You know, he's like, hey, it's a book. It's a better translated book. You know, literacy and knowledge for all, kind of thing. Eventually, she does try to burn the book. Pitt ends up saving it with minor, you know, burns, I would imagine, but they end up getting into a scuffle. At the end of the scuffle, basically, that's it. They kind of part ways. Matilda ends up taking the map, the horse, and she leaves a bag of cash for Pitt, and she's like, okay, I'm going to the cove. I'm you know, on to, you know, completing this mission. Screw you, I'll see you later. After Matilda leaves, Pitt kind of has like a moment where, like an instant grab, where he actually like tries to go like after her, and he falls down the slope and kind of bumps his head, and we have these like, I wouldn't say he passes out, but he kind of has these like flashback moments while he's laying like dumbfounded on the, you know, on the riverbank or whatever. But basically we see these moments with him and Matilda being adopted, you know, at the church back home. And it's basically like moments like that where it's like, you know, it's with Pitt and how like good information was being flooded into him by the priest and stuff like that. It's also his connection with Jen, who happens to be his lover, and what he wouldn't do for that girl Jen. We kind of see her like right here. But basically, you know, Pitt's like, nah, screw that, I gotta go help Matilda. You know, we do find out, even though she took the horse and stuff, she didn't take the right map, and he does have the map, so he's able to, you know, follow along and try to find her. Back home, we do see that the the lady in charge, I can't remember her name at the second, bad with name guys, I'm sorry, but basically the lady in charge back home, she's the one who sent the assassin or whatever, and she's being told it didn't work, and then Matilda and Pitt are still on their way to completing their mission. At this point, we're following Matilda, and basically she is, you know, following along with her mission. She's looking for the cove. She comes across this old guy who, after asking where the cove is, he's like, no, I can't tell you all that. There's a giant over there, and, you know, with good conscience, I can't let you go to that giant. You're a little girl. And she's like, hey, I'm Matilda of Ramstein. You know, okay. But Matilda of Ramstein, and she's like, you're going to give me the directions so I can go kill this giant and get that hammer. He does give her very specific directions. Follow a waterfall, look out for some, you know, a certain type of rock, you know, but she does end up making it to the cove. When Matilda gets there, she does some badass stuff. She gets ready. She makes some brand new arrows for her crossbow. She ends up fashioning a torch. And basically she goes into the cave. It was told to her by the old man that there was a story that went along with the giant, that like a superstitious type of story, that supposedly it's some guy that's been like pawning over this girl, and that's why he's stuck in the cave, because the girl's dead and he hasn't found her or whatever. Upon entering the cave, we do see some certain things. There are some, you know, human remains and stuff, with Matilda kind of like fumbling around in the cave with her torch. But eventually she does come face to face with the giant as shown here. She freaks out, launches her crossbow, and then takes off. We do find out later on that she does end up shooting the giant in the neck. Right here we come with a moment with Pitt, and he's not too far away from the where, you know, by the cove. It's one of the rock, like the rock where he's at is one of the checkpoints where she was looking for or whatever, but he knocks over his ale, and he notices that it goes into this basin, and the basin instantly like empties out. It comes into play a little, you know, later on in the story. We jump back over to Matilda, and she's coming out of the cave for running for her life. The giant is right behind her, shown there. Basically he's screaming this, you know, his lost wife's name, Agnes, and he believes now Matilda is Agnes, and he's running behind her like, Agnes, Agnes! And Matilda is running for her life, basically. She ends up making it to where the horse is, and right before the giant is able to grab her, she does end up taking some rope from her horse. She ends up intertangling the giant's feet and gets him to, you know, she shoves him in the water. Sadly enough, it takes the horse down with him. I mean, you can see the horse right there. She does apologize to the horse, but with that move, it was able to get her away from the giant because he was still coming for her. We see Matilda kind of defeated at the moment. She still has to go in the cave, but she's walking back up on the beach where the entrance to the, you know, cove cave would be, and she passes out, and we see somebody run up to save her, which of course is Pitt, because it wasn't that far behind. And they wake up late. She wakes up later on that night, and there's a huge discussion between Pitt and Matilda, and basically it's one of those I'm sorry kind of conversation, and Pitt takes the lead. We kind of find out that he might have feelings for Matilda. He basically tells her, or confesses to her, that he's had these secrets all along, and that it's probably like, you know, him keeping a secret, he's realizing that it's like hurt their team kind of thing. It's poisoned it. Now, I'm not 100% guaranteed that's what he's saying. He never actually says I love you or I like you. He does confess, and he uses these words specifically. I confess I have feelings for you, but that's kind of as far as they take it. It goes back to, after this being said, it goes back to, like, you know, they both reflect on moments back at the church or the orphanage where they were both orphans. And two different things are brought up. The note that is on Pitt's chest when he is abandoned, it says, please love this child. And then Matilda's ring, and it says, love thine, it says, be true to thy own self, is what it says. She reflects and she says she does not know what the meaning or the inscription of the ring is, even though it plays like so much key importance to her character, because she's at this point just nothing but trying to prove who she is and this and that. After all is said and done, Pitt does explain, and she explains the whole giant situation and the Agnes situation. But Pitt actually comes up with a plan. Using that water basin, he basically comes up with a task that cannot be completed by the giant. Matilda is supposed to go to the giant claiming to be Agnes, and she gives him a task. If he can fill up the water basin before the end of the day, she will be his, forever, and she'll stay with him. Of course, Pitt knows this feat cannot be completed because the second you put water in it, it just drains down. So the next day they put their plan in motion. Matilda goes to the giant claiming to be Agnes, and she gives him the task. The giant actually kind of surprises the hell out of her because he ends up cutting his own wrist, and saying that he's going to fill the basin with his blood. Matilda instantly freaks out and tries to cover up the wound. The giant actually is kind of flabbergasted, and he's like, I've spent more blood than this to fill up this basin. But of course, he's gonna take a long time to fill up that basin, and sure enough, they do show scenes where the giant is losing quite a bit of blood, and he basically passes out. As soon as he passes out, Matilda, being the cool person that she is, she ends up getting Pitt to cover up the wounds. They end up leaving him this honey mixture for when he wakes up. But basically, with that being said, they head into the tunnel. Oh, they do leave a note for the giant, kind of explaining, and it's supposed to be a note from Agnes, thank you, you completed your task, kind of thing. But they do show over here on the basin, I will point out that the basin looks pretty full with the red blood, even though the giant's passed out currently. But basically they leave a note, saying that, hey, this is Agnes, I had to leave, but I love you, you completed the task. After that, they're heading into the cave, and that's where this issue leaves off of. We get a little cover hint, which at this time the 5th issue has already been released. It's actually sitting right behind me. But hey, that is this review. That was this issue. Let me know down below what you thought. My thoughts, I'm still loving this book. I mean, I picked this up on a whim. I'm not a huge religious reader or anything like that, but with the way the religion is woven into the story, it's excellent. It's right up my alley. It's just another fantastic story. I know not a lot of people are talking about gospel, but I mean, this is one of my top indie reads. I wouldn't say top, but definitely top 5. I do get excited every time it is released. So if you have not read this book, and for some reason watching this review right now, look out for a trade. I mean, it's a very good story. That's all I gotta say. Alright guys, that's my review. Please let me know what you're thinking down below. I want to hear those thoughts. Actually, anything you want to tell me down below. You like my shirt, you like the background, anything. I love all that stuff. Alright guys, I will see you later. Definitely more reviews coming. Catch you on the flip.